Leaving the United States the second time around is a lot different than leaving the first time. We didn't have that naive excitement that we had on the first go round in 2020. This time we were quiet and we were determined. We knew the life we were leaving behind and we knew the life that we were choosing. And most importantly, we had confirmation that we had gotten it right the first time. We chose Vietnam because even though we didn't love Da Nang for living, we really love the people so much. And it's really exciting to be in a country where hope for the future is palpable. We had to remind ourselves that we love big cities for the convenience and for the variety of resources available. But in our last year in Bangkok and even our time in San Diego, we craved quiet. We craved green space. Ho Chi Minh City offers the best of both worlds. We booked ourselves a hotel for 1 week on arrival, and we figured that 1 week would give us plenty of time to find an apartment. And I know the popular way of doing things is to rent Airbnbs in different neighborhoods for short periods of time to see whether you'd enjoy living in that neighborhood or not. I don't really subscribe to that philosophy. We know ourselves pretty well. We don't love Airbnb, and we really wanted to find a place to call home. I did do some research back in the US, and by research, I mean just joining the appropriate Facebook groups, looking at those groups, figuring out the trends, figuring out who the players were, and just trying to see what was going on with renting an apartment in Ho Chi Minh City in real time. So we arrived on a Monday, very early in the morning, and we pretty much slept through the day and night that Monday. I woke up a couple of times and kind of scrolled the group since I was here, and now I could actually make some inquiries. But I didn't send anything out on that Monday because I knew we were jet lagged and we wouldn't want to go out looking at apartments on Tuesday. Well, Tuesday came around and I was looking at all the listings, and here's the important part. When I'm looking at those Facebook groups searching for apartments, what I'm really looking for are the trends. Which apartments pictures are showing up over and over and over by different people? Who are the people that are posting the most number of listings, which listings look legitimate? I mean, there's all these things you have to take into consideration. And so what I'm looking for when I look at those groups is not necessarily for apartment X. I'm more looking for the person who's putting up listings that I would be interested in. I mean, renting an apartment this way, not knowing anyone, coming into a situation blind, you have to take those listings a little bit with a grain of salt and just assume that those apartments and those pictures aren't necessarily available, but the person posting those listings has some contacts, has access to rentals, and can connect you with owners to find a rental. That's my philosophy going in looking for a rental abroad. On that Tuesday morning, I sent out some inquiries. I wasn't really hearing back, and I was like, okay, what's going on? So I started looking more, and I expanded where I was looking. I looked on TikTok. I looked on Instagram. I looked on YouTube, and I just kind of looked all over social media because in this part of the world, social media is huge. And so I thought, well, let me check those places. And it turns out I found a gentleman who had been posting in the Facebook groups. He was posting on Instagram. Everything looked pretty good. And I thought, well, he's at least somebody who looks like he either has listings himself or he has some connections. So I reached out to him, I believe over WhatsApp, because he had all of his information listed, and he got back to me right away. Maybe, yeah, it was WhatsApp, or maybe it was Instagram, I can't remember. But he got back to me right away, and he said that he could help us, and he sent me a bunch of photos for apartments, and we agreed to set up viewings for Wednesday morning at 10:30. And so we met with him on Wednesday at 10:30, and we looked at 8 apartments. We fell in love with the first one we viewed, and we pretty much knew we were interested in that one, but we went and looked at the other 7, and at the end of looking at all those, we still really were in love with the first one that we saw. And so our realtor submitted an offer to the owner, negotiated our contract, and we signed the lease and got the keys on Thursday, the next day. And we checked out of our hotel on Friday and came over to our apartment, and we even checked out of our hotel a couple of days early because this time around coming abroad, it feels a lot different, and we don't have that we're on a trip mindset. We have that we're looking for a home mindset. And it is a little different, I have to tell you, because in the past, I would have wanted to run around all over District 1, see all the famous sites, and we didn't do any of that. And in retrospect, I should have followed my own advice that I've given previously, is to stay in the area where you want to rent an apartment. But I was excited coming to a new city and wanted to stay in the center of things in District 1. Now, the apartment that we chose just had the bare bones. I'm talking a bed in each room, a sofa, and a dining room table, and that's pretty much it. So I got on Lazada, and I gotta tell you, I forgot how laborious it can be looking for things in a language you do not speak, read, or write. Every item I wanted to look at, I had to get my translator out, and just forgot, how much time it takes to figure everything out. And I managed to order some pillows for delivery same day, that first day, and it only took me a couple hours to find the pillows for our bed. It definitely brought back memories of when we were in Portugal, of when we were in Thailand, not knowing the language and needing to do day-to-day things, and how much more time needs to be built in to accomplish the things that we're used to accomplishing in our own language in an area that we're familiar with without a second thought. That first night, we slept on a bare mattress with our new pillows, and for blankets, we used 2 of my big scarves, ones that often double as our bed picnic blankets. We got a good night's sleep, and the next day our mattress cover arrived, and it was like Christmas Day back in the 70s. We were so happy. Now that we were in our apartment, we could exhale. We had quite a few quiet moments that first week in our new place. We were relieved that we were back in Southeast Asia. We were overjoyed that we scored such a cool apartment, and almost effortlessly, we were really in disbelief about our place. And I was realizing that I'm back in control of my own time. Just a few weeks ago, I was working full-time in the US, and voila, here we are, starting all over again. We finally made it out to a couple of different stores, but we didn't make a list or anything. So we basically ended up with some random things, went home, ordered some Grab, and watched some Netflix. Just this morning, I decided I was going to cook our first breakfast because we have graduated from Grab to fruit and yogurt, so we're making progress. And I thought, well, of course, the first breakfast needs to involve bacon. So I walked over to the store and got some bacon. And then when I came back, for some reason, I could not get the stove to work. I could turn it on, but when I'd put a pot up there, it wouldn't get hot. And it's the kind of induction stove that it won't heat up until you put a pot on the burner. And so I'm messing with it, and then I'm like, oh wait, I go and get a magnet and stick it to the bottom of the pot. It didn't stick. So the cookware that we bought, and I will say we bought it on a lark because I'd been looking at too many different sets on Lazada and not coming up with one because it's just so much information and the translations. And I can go down a rabbit hole really easily. Anywho, when we were at one of those stores, we just walked by and we saw some cookware and we liked the look of it, just a few skillets, and we just grabbed them as we were making our way to the check stand. Go figure, they're not induction compatible. So today, back to yogurt, back to fruit, back to Lazada, and my friend Google Translate. So if you're living abroad, if you're moving to a new city, if you're living in a new city, give yourself some grace. It's not going to all come together as quickly as you'd like, and that's okay. As always, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.